the feast of the dedication of St. John Lateran, and it's kind of a big feast, but the reason it's a big feast is because St. John's Lateran used to be the principal church of the popes. And St. John's Lateran was first built in the early 300s by Emperor Constantine, and it was given to the church, and the popes made their residences there for a very long period of time. Eventually, the original building burned down. It was rebuilt later. It's a very beautiful, very magnificent church today, but it's considered the cathedral of the popes. And so today's feast symbolizes our unity under the popes or under the papacy. And it's a reminder to us of the infallible teaching authority of the Catholic Church. And it's important that when we speak of infallibility, not just in regards to the Pope, but the Catholic Church teaches officially in an infallible manner. So the official teachings of the Church. Basically, the role of the popes and the bishops, as I mentioned before, is to preserve and to hand on what Christ has already revealed to us and established for us. So today's reading, I chose Paul's letter to the Corinthians, and notice how it says, "For no one can lay any foundation other than the one that has been laid. That foundation is Jesus Christ." So we build on the foundation of Jesus Christ, not just the person, but everything that Jesus taught, everything that Jesus established. And the good thing for us as Catholics is, when we look at papal teaching, we can compare it to the traditional teachings of the Church, what the Church has always taught. So it is possible that popes can make mistakes. We know St. Peter made mistakes. St. Paul had to correct him. And in the history of the Church, there have been some bad popes, some popes who have said things that were inappropriate. And this is why tradition is also so very important, because tradition is kind of like that foundation. And over time, tradition kind of develops in the sense that we have a clearer, more broader understanding of all the things that have been established. But the truths of our faith do not change. And this is very significant. And it's worthwhile to note that many people today, they think that mankind is evolving, partially because they don't believe in God as a creator, but we see all kinds of things happening in society, and there are certain intellectuals who think that eventually man and artificial intelligence, AI, can be combined. And we've seen many movies have come out promoting that idea. So they want to advance the evolution of man by introducing artificial intelligence, adding machine or computer components to a person's brain and things like that. So there's this belief in evolution, and they believe that mankind is evolving. But the reality is that even if mankind were physically evolving, they say that, for example, baldness is a dominant gene. So as time goes on, more and more people, both men and women, will be bald. But as our human nature, that doesn't change. Our human nature is based on our soul, and our soul is something spiritual. It's not something that can evolve. Our soul is created directly by God, and we're all human beings, so it's not as if there's a new kind of being that is going to be created at some point in the future. So we are all the same human beings, same as Adam and Eve, the very first human beings, even though they may have looked like cavemen at that time. So there is no evolution of the soul, and so morality will not change. And God also is unchanging. So God is the source of all truth. He's not going to say, oh, well, what I taught 100 years ago, I'm going to change that now. God doesn't do that. God is consistent. So truth doesn't change. The truths pertaining to our faith do not change. And there's so much evidence in support of our faith, so much evidence in support of God. And also in regards to morality, we just need to look at the empirical evidence. So all of these things point to the fact that we have the truth. We have the fullness of the truth in the Catholic Church. When we think of the non-Catholic Christian churches, we see they've made all kinds of changes because they lack this infallible authority. And this authority is not just something the Pope has. It's something that God guards the church from making error. And we see in today's gospel reading how Christ was driving out the money changers from the temple, right? And this symbolizes that the role of the popes, the role of the bishops, the role of the priests is to drive out evil, to drive out sin from our parishioners. So we, the faithful, we are the body of Christ. We are the mystical body of Christ. We are the church building, but it has to be on the foundation of Christ. And as Christ taught against sin, so we too must preach against sin and build up this body of Christ, extend this mystical body of Christ to include more and more people. This is the ideal. So in other words, if we didn't have this infallible nature of the church, we could make all kinds of mistakes. We would be like the non-Catholic Christians. One group believes one thing, another group believes another thing. So we need to look at the consistent, constant teaching of the church as our source of truth. It's only on rare occasions that the popes use their infallible authority to make a new proclamation that perhaps wasn't clear in the past. So let us be united in the truth, and let us promote the truth to the best of our abilities.